Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting in this new setting in this nicely renovated Morris Lawrence building. A chance for us all to relish that tonight. Vanessa, would you please call the roll?
Chair Milligan,
Here.
Vice Chair Davis,
Here.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty here.
Secretary Hatcher,
Here.
Trustee Fleming,
Here.
Trustee Landau,
Here.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
And support? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? We've approved our agenda. Next, tab A, approval of the minutes. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the July 19, 2022 monthly meeting as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve this agenda?
Move we approve the agenda.
Support.
And we have support. Any discussion? All in favor of the approval of the minutes?
Aye.
And are there any opposed? The minutes stand approved. Thank you. Citizen participation. The WCC Education Association, Ms. Kissel, I see approaching the podium. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. This is beautiful, certainly. So it is September 2022. 339. This is the number of accumulated years of institutional knowledge we are losing based on this month's personnel report. While this institution and my colleagues have done amazing things these past few years, the loss of this institutional knowledge creates new challenges. Our concern is that the same people are doing more and more work to make up for those who are gone and for those not yet trained or even hired. This means that more people are finding themselves taxed more than ever, and at some point, there is little left to give. The exhaustion from this continuous push to get it all handled stands to create even more stress in the months to come. But my goal is not to be the bearer of doom and gloom, but I know firsthand the stress created from trying to do too much for too many, too often. The institution must be equipped to retain their current staff, offer support for the current staff, hire new staff, and have leadership and training in place to support them. This is not just an issue for WCC, as most institutions and businesses are facing the same future. It will be the institution with the best leadership that will best manage these changes. And so is WCC ready for this? No, not completely. But understanding our deficits can help us all work together to create the supports needed to make this happen. And working together is the only way to provide our students with the best possible instruction. Regarding grievances, the WCCEA has sent another grievance to arbitration, but there is no date set for this. There is an arbitration date set for November 21st, 2022 for the arbitration related to office space. We were disappointed this week to learn that our proposal to settle this arbitration was turned down with no counteroffer. The WCCA believes that we offered a way forward and that while not meeting every desire on both sides, it would work to lay a foundation for a better future option. As I've shared with President Belanca, it is clear to the WCCA that if one side is only looking at winning, the institution loses as a whole. But to end on a positive note, while we are sad to see so many of our colleagues leave us, we are also excited to welcome many new members of the WCCEA. They are coming to WCC at a time of great opportunity, and we look forward to working and learning with them. As Dr. Mandolin Mull, Assistant Professor of Leadership at Rockford University, reminds us, the environment is not solely created by the people around us. Sometimes we alone cannot change it, and in those situations we must lead. In others, we can help transform the environment not only for others, but also ourselves. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's the greenest wherever you water it. So the WCCEA stands ready to help align priorities and goals to find a win for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments this evening? If so, would you please come forward? Seeing none. Vanessa, did we have written communications?
There was one received.
Which we're all in receipt of, right? Thank you. Special reports, a presentation on the local strategic value best practices for 2022. Dr. Morrison, please.
Good evening. It's September, so once again, we're pleased to be here before you to present to the board our annual local strategic value, which highlights how WCC meets best practices in serving our local partners and our community.
Why don't you pull that microphone down for you? Yeah.
As trustees will recall, completion of the local strategic value, or the LSV, has been a requirement of the state's community college appropriations process since 2011. This year, the LSV has been approved as Section 230 of Public Act 144 of 2022. The local strategic value continues to be a component of the state performance funding formula that determines the percent increase in each community college's budget, and it requires that we demonstrate at least 4 out of 5 best practices in each of 3 categories that are related to how we make an impact within our community. The state also requires that this be approved by board resolution, and the board will be voting on that later this evening. The funding formula for this process hasn't changed over the last few years. We'll go over this again briefly, as it's important to understand how the funds are allocated. As you can see, it starts with 30% sustainability funding, which is proportional to the prior year's base appropriation. There's also 30% weighted contact hours, and health, technology, and industrial programs are weighted higher. And that metric comes from the State Michigan Community College data inventory. There's 10% each allocated based on the rate of completion. So first 10% for the rate of completion performance improvement, which measures our college's own improvement over 6 years for completion of certificate degrees and transfer. And that metric comes from CEPI, which is also at the state. It's the Center for Educational Performance and Information. And then 10% straight completion numbers, which comes from the federal IPEDS reporting. And then 10% for the completion rate compared to all 28 community colleges. And that comes from the state CEPI database. And then 5% of the allocation is based on administrative costs, and the less your administrative costs come to, the better it is for your appropriations. And finally, that last in 5% in red there, the local strategic value, and may seem like it's a small value. However, as we've said many times before, it really is an important piece of the funding puzzle. There are multiple benefits to completing this activity. First of all, obviously it enhances our opportunity for the funding increase. As you know, we have consistently received among the highest percent increases among like colleges every year. Fiscal year 22-23 is no different. Again, the allocation for WCC was the second highest increase in the state. And the LSV is also, as you see, part of mandatory state transparency reporting. All colleges are required to post it on their homepage, which we will do after it goes to the state. And that goes along with other budget and compensation and other required mandatory reporting. But finally, and perhaps most important of all, it really does provide a showcase for our value to our constituents and to the specific communities and partners that we serve. The LSV addresses the college's ability to meet 15 best practices in these 3 categories: economic development, business and industry partnerships, educational partnerships, and community services. And tonight we will go through highlights of these. As we do, we will not go through everything in the LSV. In your board packet, you will find a highlighted copy under tab K. Those are highlights of anything new, notable, or significantly updated over this last year. And tonight, Vice President Tucker, Provost Blakey, and Vice President Mueller will share some of these highlights. And so now I will turn it over to Vice President Tucker to talk about economic development and business or industry partnerships.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have the privilege of talking about what we've done over the last year as it relates to economic development and our partnerships with industry. We expanded to our third cohort of our long-term healthcare training program in partnership with local employers who had come to us and asked us to stand up a program, and that is boasting a 95% job placement rate. We've hosted 3 American Red Cross drives collecting 127 pints of blood, hosted health and safety events such as our Washtenaw and Livingston Medical Control Authority training, our county and Ann Arbor Township Fire Department hazmat training, Michigan Medicine ER training, and of course, partner with our sheriff to do behavior and mental health awareness. And we, of course, continued our partnership with Rite Aid to host our COVID booster vaccine clinics. We joined some new industry groups supporting our mobility and our smart city strategy, including the Telecommunications Association of Michigan, ITS Michigan, and our active participations on the Local Development Finance Authority. We have participated in our CCAT, the Center for Connected and Automotive Technology, our global symposium since 2019. And of course, President Malaka was asked to be a keynote presenter both in 2020 and 21. Our public service training department continued to develop customized training for local agencies such as tactical first aid, iPhone awareness, looking at from a cybersecurity perspective, and more. Not just within our region, but had agencies from across the state come and receive training. And then, of course, our Advanced Transportation Center has continued to be active in industry events, such as the Center for Automotive Research Briefing Seminar. We just, of course, left the North American International Auto Show, Motorbella, Eyes on Automotive Design, and of course, we'll be partnering with Ann Arbor Spark again in a few weeks at the Mobility Row exhibit. We continue to focus on our industry clusters as defined by the state. So when we think about healthcare, we think about advanced manufacturing, we think about IT, to meet employer needs, and expanded our boot camp structure in partnership with Michigan Works to provide funding for those that may not be able to afford that short-term training, such as our cybersecurity boot camp, with a special emphasis on those who are rehabilitating, partner with MRS, and then our Foundations of Care, which I previously mentioned, and these are a list of a few of the current employers, and that continues to expand as most recently as Michigan Medicine. You might notice when you drove in today that there are 2 semi-trucks. We're grateful to our facilities and our public safety team because we heard for the last 5 years that CDLA drivers were in dire need. So we have stood up a class. We just got an email today that 100% pass rate for that initial class. They all are hired within 2 weeks of graduating, and all the classes through January, classes start every 3 weeks, are all full with the waiting list. Our Entrepreneurship Center continues to grow and evolve. They had nearly 400 new intakes in the midst of COVID, with hundreds of both virtual and in-person sessions. And we served just over 300 clients individually one-on-one, and had a little over 400 attendees at 37 webinars focused on various stages of developing from an idea to a concept to launching a business. We just became a member a few weeks ago to the Small Business Association of Michigan, also known as SBAM, which gives us exposure to 30,000 small business owners in Michigan, that we now can talk about what it means to partner with WCC, whether that be for training, whether that be for certificate or degree credit programs, or even being a member of our panel discussions with our Entrepreneurship Center. And then our Small Business Development Center continues to exceed the state standards, serving 1,099 clients over the last year who happened to open 63 businesses and created or retained just over 500 jobs. We have launched on our academic side of the house the new Entrepreneurship Essentials 9-credit certificate, which can be completed in 1 semester. And as we do with all of our certificates, they're stackable. So individuals can come, get that 9-credit certificate, and then continue their education with our Entrepreneurship and Innovation 18-credit certificate. Both are available on ground or online in an accelerated format. And then our Entrepreneurship Center continues to collaborate with the Michigan Founders Fund in supporting their Future Founders Internship Program, which focuses on internships in tech and entrepreneurship, specifically for underrepresented students. And as you have heard before, our Amazon Career Choice Program, we were extended an opportunity to join. We are now live, and we have been doing sessions on site at Amazon in Romulus. We'll be at Amazon in Livonia, and there are about 12,000 employees at those 3 facilities that now have access to take advantage of coming to WCC on the dime of Amazon up to $5,250 a year. Some technological advancements that were made through our partnerships with industry. Many of you have visited our automotive cybersecurity lab with Umlaut design workshops or workstations in the BE building. We have been getting rave reviews, not just from industry partners, from state agencies that are interested to see how we can grow and expand that space. And then, as we've mentioned before, we researched and submitted successfully in response to the community congressional grants that come out annually for an electric battery assembly and vehicle charging maintenance program. And we are in line, and it's looking favorable. But then we also continue to offer mobility-related training that is on demand, specifically over 20 online classes that focus on connected vehicles, smart cities, data analysis, and many of those lead to an industry certification. Continue on with those partnerships. As we know, we continue to expand our partnerships with the trades. We had over 4,000 members from UA, ironworkers, the operative plasterers and masons, and the roofers union. And what is important to note that the estimated economic impact used to be around $13.5 million. It's now been assessed at approximately $20 million for their time that they spend here in Ann Arbor. We continue to support our UA, one of our larger partners, with remote support during COVID, where hundreds of courses were made available through Blackboard and apprenticeship training that was put online for over 160 local training centers across the country. Many of those partnerships and those training courses are still available and are being taken advantage by those members across the country. And then, of course, as you will remember, have seen, the Great Lakes Training Center expansion was on target, on budget, and now open with a little over $4 million of advancement. As we look at partnerships with local workforce and economic development agencies, the Advanced Transportation Center returned to an in-person display of course, as we mentioned, our mobile hacking lab, and then our Fort Maquis at the Ann Arbor Spark Tech Trek and Mobility Row. That was last year. Of course, it's coming up in 3 weeks. We'll be back. But then we also were recognized by the state to deliver continuing education credits, SCEHs, for professional development that we offer on the non-credit side. And then many of you were at our first in-person Washtenaw Economic Club that we sponsored. And shameless plug, we'll be back in this building on Thursday. We're excited to be able to have our first WEC event back here on campus. As a specific focus, as you know, we've been trying to focus on college and career readiness. The Harriet Street Center at Park Ridge piloted digital literacy training. So you might remember that we gave away laptops. And one thing that we did was when we gave them away, we said, you can have the laptop for free, but you've got to come for training. So what we found was that not only did the students come for training and their parents, but we also found that there were seniors and there were members across the street of the Ypsilanti Housing Commission residents that came for that training. Many have still continued to come back to Park Ridge and Harriet Street to get support, but we found that to be a really good pathway that we're going to continue. As we look at some partnerships that have happened this year, our Center for Career Success had a banner year assisting 1,000 individuals registering for over 2,500 jobs, and we hosted a record number of employers, 100 employers, and 200 attendees at virtual career fairs. While we have a in-person career fair that will happen in about 3 weeks, the limit is usually around 80 employers. But now when we are able to move to virtual, we're able to do more. The Certification Center has continued to expand their menu of testing and now are able to offer more than 200 industry certifications across multiple professions. And we sponsored the Regional Careers of Today and Tomorrow Job Fair in partnership with Michigan Works Southeast, specifically displaying our mobility and our cyber programs with 25 niche employers and hundreds of job seekers that were both in high school and adult age. High school was in the morning, adults were in the evening, that came and heard about the opportunities that exist that are emerging in the mobility sector. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Provost Blakey, who will talk to us tonight about educational partnerships.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right, be serious. I'm going to talk about, the first section is active partnerships with regional high schools, intermediate school districts to provide dual enrollment, middle college, or other programs. We continue to expand our partnerships with Ypsilanti Community Schools with meetings at Park Ridge and our visits to YCS. And we also offered scholarships to the Park Ridge summer camps participants. We continue to partner with our local high schools for in-person and virtual dual enrollment offerings. 17% of our students, new students for this fall semester, are dual enrolled students. That's up from 11%. We continue to offer classes at the high schools. So this past year we had, at 4 different high schools, we had 15 different in-person classes that were provided. The Advanced Transportation Center worked with Square One Education Network for K-12 STEM initiative vehicle design. So we partnered with Kettering University, and we were at the Michigan International Speedway for STEM Day, which went really well. We became a post-secondary partner with Plymouth Canton Community Schools as they opened their middle college program, and that's the 5th partnership we have for middle college. For us hosting, sponsoring, or participating in programs that enrich K-12 students, we continue to have our annual summer youth classes and camps through our community enrichment program. We had 12 in-person camps in 2022, 9 of which were tech-focused, like for drones and coding. We reimagined our summer learning experience camp and after-school program at Park Ridge, including certified teachers in math and reading, Spanish, and STEM instruction. We had our 4th annual STEAM Week this past year with over 40 virtual sessions where 450 high school students participated, and we combined that for the first time ever with our WCC Campus Explore event, and it was a very good partnership that, well, we did this last year. Our welding department hosted the 2022 High School Welding Invitational, where we had over 140 high schools competitors from 8 school districts. And we also hosted the 2022 USA State Welding Competition with 54 entrants from 12 high schools across Michigan. We also had the Transportation Technologies Department hosted the USA High School Regional Competition with 65 participants. So for programming to promote transition to college for traditional age students, we integrated our coaching model, and so we continue to serve our first-year, first-time degree-seeking students using TargetX for very systematic and personal outreach messages. We refined our, due to the state kind of changing how we can pay for developmental courses, we've refined our co-requisite model for college-level reading, writing, and math with new modalities, and allows students to achieve and get to their college-level classes in 1 year or less. We continue to phase in our on-campus offerings while we continue to enhance our online options. We had 350 online courses for 21-22, and we also continue to provide all of our support services to meet student needs. We also had our virtual classes. We expanded those, and our for winter 22, our success rates were 79% in those classes, which was 7% above the national average. We completed our another year of our Alpha Scholars Program with 123 first-time, full-time degree-seeking students. 25% of those students are minority, and they had a 94% persistence rate, and they're continuing to be supported by the Title III grant. For programming that's promoting successful transition to college for new and re-entering adult students, we were very much participating in the state-funded Futures for Frontliners, where we had over 2,400 enrollees, and we gave out over 1,700 scholarships and over 2,700 Reconnect students with those 2 new state scholarship programs. The scholarships were over $2.4 million for Futures and $2.1 million for the Reconnect students. Our foundation continues to help our students. The Student Emergency Fund helped 130 students with $167,000 in support for 21-22. We continue to increase our OERs, which are open educational resources. And to date, we've saved $2.4 million in student textbook cost for the past year, and that rises the level since 2017-18 when we first started this initiative to $9.3 million. We also have put in place our Z degree, which allows a student to do their degree using only OER classes. The Bailey Library continues to maintain over 300 laptops for student use, and they had 400 during COVID during 2021. For programming that promote successful transition to college for new and re-entering adult students, continuing with that, we continue to expand our mental health services. Our WellTrack app, which we started this past year, allows students to kind of self-monitor and access tools for mental health issues. Our protocol is our 24/7 call center, which provides immediate support and mental health resources and referrals to students that's across the United States. We expanded our telehealth counseling. We did over 330 personal counseling appointments last year. Our latest counselor that was hired is a certified QRP trainer, which stands for Question, Respond, Persuade. Because she's a certified instructor in that area, we've provided training for all of our frontline staff, and then we've continued to offer sessions for faculty and students as well. And it provides the staff training on how to assist students who are in distress. Our collegiate recovery program continues to be very active with our students, for students seeking help with addiction. And we've also, during the last year, sponsored community naloxone training, and we just had our second training of naloxone in the last week. We've also expanded accelerated programming, so knowing that adults want kind of accelerated programming, even in 3-week and 4-week modules, we've continued to expand those offerings, and we have those in business management, business essentials, entrepreneurship, and IT programming. The 5th area in this part of the presentation is for active partnerships with 4-year colleges and universities to promote successful transfer. And we continue to participate in the National Science Foundation. We got renewal for the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, our LSAMP grant, which includes University of Michigan, Michigan State, Wayne State, Western Michigan, and Mott. And it increases the success for underrepresented students in STEM fields. That program, we've seen a growth in our STEM scholars. The program started with 16 students in 2018, and we've had presentations of those STEM scholars at board meetings previously. We are now up to 98 STEM scholars in 2022. 20% minority with 100% retention for those students in that program. We were well represented in the University of Michigan UROP, which is the Undergraduate Research Opportunity Program, in 2022. We had 6 WCC students who were accepted to present their research that they worked on over the past year. That was the most of any institution presenting. We also have our new HBCU Pathway Program, which has agreements for WCC students to transfer with support to select HBCUs across the United States. And we are the first community college in Michigan to have such an agreement. And we continue to have articulation agreements. We have 86 transfer agreements with our 4-year partners, 19 reverse transfer, and 63 3+1 agreements. Now Vice President Mueller will talk to you about community services.
Thank you. Oh, we have a question before you go away.
Yes,
Trustee McKnight Morton.
thank you. Just real quick, you said 63 transfers for 3+1 programs, and what, is it just one university or other universities involved in this transfer agreement?
The 3+1 specifically?
Yeah,
They're with multiple institutions. Multiple institutions. We have them with U of M, we have them with Eastern, Davenport, Siena Heights. We have multiple 3+1s.
oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Is there any way I can get that information? Because when I'm talking, I always mention Eastern, but I didn't realize the others
No, we have them
were
with multiple.
involved.
Sure, we can
Okay,
get that
I see
list for
heads
you.
nodding. So when I start talking, I can say,
Absolutely.
these others are included too.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Trustee DeVarty.
Actually, I was writing down questions both for Brandon and Linda.
Should we say?
Should I hold those?
Well,
They're
if you have
short,
one
they're
for
short
Linda,
questions.
she's here.
Okay,
I
well, I've
suggest
got
addressing
three.
her.
On the dual enrollment, where we're partnering and offering classes, you said in 4 high schools.
Mhm.
How many students are you finding enrolling in those?
It varies by institution. We have anywhere from 15 students to 28 students in a section.
And as a total? You don't,
I will have to
well,
get back
times
to you.
4,
Yeah,
so
because
probably-
there's 15 sections. So we have, it was at four different high schools. We have 15 sections. So I will have to add up what those 15
So any-
sections are, sorry.
So 225 or more? 15 students in 15
Yep,
sections?
yes.
The welding competition
Yes.
sounds really interesting. That's
Okay.
on campus?
Yes.
And is there spectator, the ability for spectators to come and see that? I
Dean
imagine-
Babber, I believe there can be spectators, but
Okay, well.
yes.
I'd like to find out more about that and when it is.
Okay.
Then, curious how many students, I know it's new, but the HBCU pathway program that we just started, a year ago, maybe a little more?
Mhm.
How many students have we found participating in that, or,
I will get that
targeted?
information from Dean Reed and get that to you.
what was that?
He said for
5?
this fall semester, we had 5 students who had completed and transferred this fall.
So, and that's.
There's more students than that are in those programs, but there's 5 that completed and
It's a new
transferred.
program, so
It's
it's
a brand
pretty
new program,
remarkable
yes.
that already 5 students
Yes,
have transferred.
it's great. It's fantastic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's what it is.
Trustee Hatcher.
Well, I'm glad we're asking questions. Are we going to do any kind of persistence study for the students who are in the new co-rec math and English and reading courses?
Yes,
So we're gonna follow them and see how many persist, how many go on?
yes, because we'll be looking, so those kind of co-requisites started a little bit last year, but more in
Yeah.
force this
So
semester.
we can look at entering students, where they were.
Yes.
And what they did.
Yes.
Good. Thanks, I look forward to that.
Okay.
Any other questions before we release Ms. Blakey?
Please.
Moving right along, please.
Good evening. Now for Category C, Community Services. The first best practice, continuing education programming for leisure, wellness, personal enrichment, or professional development. And now for the evidence. We held over 200 classes for enrichment and development, both virtual and in person in 2022. In addition, we had approximately 64 free senior focus classes with 1,500 registrations. For the first time, we held the Liberal Arts Week for campus and for the community to highlight benefits of liberal arts education on workplace skills as part of the National Arts and Humanities Month. Human Resources collaborated this past year with campus and community partners to provide mental health and wellness resources such as lunch and learns and wellness days in 2021 and in 2022. The campus emphasized wellness, recognized by the American College of Sports Medicine, was an award that we won for the 4th consecutive year, was Silver Exercise is Medicine Award. And grant funding was received of over $70,000 from community funders such as the United Way, Washtenaw County, AAACF, African Endowment Fund, and others. And that money was received to support WCC community development. Best practice number 2, opportunities for community to engage in activities for leisure, wellness, cultural or personal enrichment, such as sports, theater, or music ensembles or artist guilds. The first piece of evidence, we offered our third free virtual race and ethnic relations series from the Lifelong Learning area in 2022 with 580 different registrations. We held our diversity, equity, and inclusion events and outreach for the campus and the community, such as the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, the Beloved Community, educational and community events, Equity in Actions Awards, recognizing contributions to campus and community equity, and WCC's first Juneteenth community celebration. We also offered free college week again this year to the community with more than 40 virtual courses and over 1,500 participants are registering for classes. Best practice number 3, facilities to promote cultural, educational, or enrichment for the community, such as libraries, computer labs, performing arts centers, museums, art galleries, or television or radio stations. Number 1, we opened the Morris Lawrence Building, thank you, in July 2022 after major facility and technology renovations, enhancing conference services, meeting, performance, event, and educational spaces. We opened a new art gallery in ML to showcase student, faculty, and local artists' work. And I will say on the side that as of the different groups that have already come back, all of them stop and just look at that space and love it. So I think that was a great investment. We held juried student art shows, student art show, and we started that in 2016 in a hybrid format in 2022, and it's open to the public with student work available for purchase. WCC is now home to the Deutschschule of Ann Arbor for Culture and Language. And conference services, as you know, supports events year-round, even with the impact of COVID, the ML building closure. WCC hosted 913 events on the campus for over 18,000 visitors in 2021-22, and typically serves over 91,000 visitors annually. So that was a very high number, considering the fact that the building was closed. Best practice number 4, facilities to promote leisure or wellness activities for the community, such as gymnasiums, athletic fields, fitness centers, nature trails, etc. Number 1, the Health and Fitness Center, as you know, has the capacity to serve 7,700 community student employee members, and usage is now starting to rebound now that we've come out of COVID-19, or at least we're starting to come out of that. And our highlights include over 65 courses a week that have been held, special programs that we put in place, such as meditation, Master Swim, MyFitRx. We are certified as a medical fitness facility by the Medical Fitness Association since 2014, and we were recertified last year for another 4 years. And we partner with community organizations for members to serve community, including SOS Community Services, Safe House, and Ypsilanti Meals on Wheels, and others. And finally, the Health and Fitness Center and the Wadhams Veterans Center collaborated in May 2022 to be official hosts for the MRF Challenge, a national fitness challenge, raising scholarships for veterans. And finally, best practice number 5, community service activities for students, staff, or community members. First, we held a week-long esports event in October of 2021, raising $10,000 for gaming consoles for children at the University of Michigan's Mott Children's Hospital in Flint. We also reopened the dental assisting department, and through that department we offer low-cost dental services as well as experience for U of M dental students. Our WCC faculty and staff annually take part in the American Heart Association Heart Walk with record participation and funds raised in 2021. And finally, WCC hosts community meetings promoting community involvement at the Park Ridge Center. And those meetings include weekly Monday meetings where WCC community discussions and initiatives take place with local partners, agencies, and politicians. Bi-weekly wraparound services with Ypsilanti Housing Commission and Engage at EMU. And finally, regular information sharing meetings with Michigan Works Southeast. And with that, number 5, did I just say that? Number 5, community services activities for student, staffs, or community members. We were designated a voter-friendly campus in 2021 by Campus Vote Project for high level of student engagement and awarded a silver seal in 2021-22 by the All In Democracy Challenge for student participation in the 2020 election. WCC Sustainability Council annually sponsors a free climate summit open to students and the community. The 2022 theme was food and food justice. And finally, in 2022, WCC collaborated with the Region 9 Veterans Community Action Team to host the first Washtenaw County Vet Fest, a free large-scale event for veterans and their families. Thank you.
Trustee Hatcher?
I just wondered if you have a sense of how quickly people are coming back to the Morris Lawrence building who have not been able to use it for a year.
I had Patrick Downey reach out to our long-standing people that were contracting with the college, and many of them almost instantaneously contacted us to reschedule. So that is very, very good news. And we've had a number of different groups contact us that are brand new because of the excitement kind of around the space and, the technology, the culinary, et cetera. And so we're starting to fill the building with new clients as well.
Good, thank you.
So that's very, very good, yeah.
You have a question of Brandon Tucker?
I did.
Mr. Tucker, could you come forward, please?
Well, first off, and I think I saw this, you mentioned is one of the partnership things. This is just a short thing. We have blood drives on campus. There's one coming up this week or next week, right?
That's a Linda question.
Okay, well, I think there is, and I'll take a look, because if there is, I'm gonna go there and donate a pint of blood.
Awesome, thank you.
What I'm really interested in is the new Great Lakes, the renovation that we've done to the Great Lakes in partnership with UA and their investment, which I feel is really building a stronger long-term relationship with them. But my understanding is that it's really an interesting and very well-equipped facility. I'm wondering if it might be possible. I'm interested in a tour of it.
Absolutely.
And if that could be offered to anybody on the board that would want to take part in that.
We could absolutely make that
It would
happen.
be great if one of our partners with the UA could be part of that tour, if there's somebody local that is available, because I'd be really interested in finding out how they're finding working with that new facility and in partnership with the college.
We can definitely make that happen for any board member that wishes to take a tour. It is already was an amazing addition at some of the equipment they had, but with the new addition, definitely world class, first in
Right.
class.
That's what I understand, and I'd like to see it.
We can
And
make that happen.
anybody on the board that would like to see it, I think it should be open to everybody.
Any
Absolutely.
other questions? Trustee Hatcher?
I'm not sure who they relate to, but I just wanted to say that, I don't know if I said this before, but the Juneteenth celebration for the first time was really quite lovely. And I hope it continues and grows, and that we could be part of that. I attended and was very impressed with how it was done. I guess I also wanted to know if we got the second highest funding, who got the first?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who? Oh. And I'd also like to have your PowerPoint pages printed and sent or delivered, because they're not in the book. So, thank you.
Any other questions from trustees? Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that when UA was here, their president made a point of telling me that their presence here had economic value equivalent to the Michigan-Ohio State football game.
Wow.
Whoa, really?
I can only take him at his word, but I was impressed.
We need to get a band.
Tab B in our agenda, personnel recommendations. And the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
And is there support?
Support. Support.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I have questions.
Pardon?
I have questions.
Trustee Hatcher.
Thank you. Of the new faculty, nursing, social science, and life science, are any of those people minorities? Do we know? Classified as? No? Those, okay. I don't know if Julie can add right, but I got 243 years of all those full-time employment people leaving. And it is a lot of people to lose with a lot of experience. And some of them pretty much irreplaceable, like Tom Pinard. I mean, there's nobody gonna be like him ever. We can't find another one. So there's a real loss of talent and commitment in that paragraph there. And I worry about it a little, but it has happened before. The new full-time hire, management of academic services, is that under Linda Blakey person? Christina's
Yes.
saying?
She nodded her
She's
head.
not, I
Yes.
can't see her, good, okay. I think that was my, and then do we have any women, in the patrol officer group, the public
Yes.
safety group now?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 5?
We have one police officer, and then we have at least one full-time patroller and some part-time patrollers.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Betty Norton?
I just want to follow up behind what trustee Hatcher was saying. It really took me by surprise looking at the full-time ending employment. I counted, I think it was 11, but this is what I did. I saw 3 that had 30-plus years. 170 with 30 or more years. Those are, when I say
Cumulative.
cumulative, right. 67 with 20-plus years cumulative, and 29, 17 or less years. That's, I mean, it's overwhelming to even think about it, let alone trying to read it and comprehend what is being done here. But we have to remember, the institution is old. And people have been here a long time. Pleasant included. But this is a reality. And there's bright new people out here who want to work here. And I find that really exhilarating because we're at a point in our lives where we're moving off into the pasture. But these young people want to come in here and have bright ideas that even would embellish of what these people have done, or even more so. So I'm really pleased to see this. I'm really happy because now we know that we're gonna be able to have some good people that will carry on the tradition and our mission of this institution. I wanna add 2 more, ending employment. Tyler Goebel, Goebel. He had 2 years, but the main one was Lori Trapp with 27 years of service. So we really are in a situation where we're gonna miss the people that have been here and done a fabulous job. However, we're gonna be really happy to get and welcome new talent, new fresh faces, new for the future.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
The changing of the guard.
Changing
That's
of the
beautiful.
guard.
Thank
I
you.
want to add something too. if
Trustee
I could.
DeVarty? Oh,
Angela.
Thank you.
Trustee Davis, please.
I remember first getting on the board, and we were presented with a diversity and inclusion report, and it was questioned about the amount of minority representation in the faculty, and our beloved Trustee Hatcher and Trustee McKnight Morton still brings it to the forefront. It is very important that we have increased minority representation, not just for the African American students, but for students of all culture and background, particularly the students of color. And Washtenaw County as a whole, there's other races that outnumber the minority population, but in this school, Washtenaw Community College is a fantastic school that is recognized throughout this state and outside of Michigan. And we have gone through strides to make sure that students of all races and cultures are represented in whatever field of choice, but it makes that student feel more at home when they have someone to look at that looks like them. And as you can look at this board, there's 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 3 African Americans on this board. There was one time there was only 1, and it happened to be Trustee McKnight Morton and another person at that time before she got on. You know, and I'm looking out in the audience, and that's fine, but it is vital that we have a marketing team or whomever's involved in doing recruitment to pull out all the stops and bring in those that can replace the members of our faculty and staff that have left. And that will put our school much more on the map. The Detroit area, WC3, maybe Oakland Community College, some of them other colleges that have a more of a stronger demographics in that area of minority representation. Yes, we don't have that here, but that doesn't mean that we can't go steal them. That doesn't mean that we can, can't reach outside of our boundaries of the state of Michigan to go snatch somebody. We do have to do a better job in bringing people here of color. We just have to. We've been doing so well in all of our other strategic goals and missions. Why not also make that a #1 dire focus? We can do it. We've done everything else. We can do that too. And I totally give congratulatory efforts to Dr. Reeves that's come in with the partnerships that he has expounded on with the HBCU partnerships that will only continue to get better, and what we've done thus far. But all I'm saying, there's always room for opportunity, and we have to step in and take advantage of that.
Thank you. Trustee DeVarty?
So along with all the years of service we're we're losing a large number of full-time faculty members. And my concern is I'm looking at 4 replacement new hires for, 11 or so employment ending in the full-time area. And doesn't our contract, our labor contract, I believe, has a cap on part-times based on a percentage of full-times? And I'm wondering if we're getting dangerously low in our full-time positions where we're in danger of messing with that contract language.
Mr. Chair, may I call on Victor Vega?
I can't see him, so please
Can
go
you
on.
stand, please?
No, I can answer Trustee Devani. We actually, during this cycle, we hired 10 new full-time faculty members to replace. But they were in the previous memo. In the previous board meeting, those were announced. Those are the latest one that came in. And I'm sorry, what the other question was regarding?
The ratio.
The
and I know you know
ratio
that
of
answer 'cause
part-time
you told
to
me.
full-time, I want to make
We're
sure
good.
we stay in line with the
Oh,
contract.
we are.
We're
Yes,
good.
Yes, we are. And we actually share the information with the WCCA.
Okay, thank you.
Are you good now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going
David,
back to trustee
I
McKnight
just want
Morton.
to, Dave, that's only for faculty. It's not for administration.
Correct.
Full-time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I did forget, and please forgive me. This was a total oversight. Roger Moran, 27 years. And Bill Johnson, 9 years, but it seemed like 100.
Yeah, we miss him. We do miss him.
Is he really gone?
Yes.
Oh my God, really gone.
He's really gone.
He did a fabulous job.
He did.
He stepped in when we really needed somebody to step in. And he's going to be sorely missed, and my feelings are that he's going to be fine with his grandkids.
He was a jack of all trades.
Yes, he was.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I would just like to acknowledge one thing that Bill did that I think we all, perhaps we were all here when he did, maybe perhaps we weren't, but he literally introduced the budget process as we know it from scratch.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
he literally took this institution from, writing notations on large pieces of paper to a integrated, modern business model budgeting process that did not exist here before.
Thank you.
And we as trustees really were almost blind to the finance part of this institution because it was so opaque and so, difficult to understand.
Yes.
But, his workbooks, the way it all flowed from one to the other. I mean, the whole budgeting process that Bill introduced really, I think, just revolutionized this. I mean, maybe I.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
You're
I
right.
mean, we could see things we couldn't see before.
Right. Because we didn't know what we were looking at.
No. And he made it, as much as I made fun of him for it, but I mean, he literally made something that was, completely, hard to understand, arcane, but he made it sensible and he made it make sense. So.
Yes.
And you were my
Praise God.
second smartest person I know.
Trustee Hatcher, do you have another comment?
I guess. I'm concerned about maintenance and custodial and engineering people leaving too, because as much as the faculty hold this place together,
Oh,
we
yeah,
really
they do.
wouldn't have lights or heat or anything else without them. And a lot of them are getting old and leaving.
Yeah.
And it's important to get really qualified, talented people in those positions. I'm also concerned about the Department of Advancement. Do we have someone who's in charge of advancement now?
Oh, yes, we
or-
do.
And we
Yes.
have some new positions here that weren't before, so it's
Yes,
going.
Yes, Tina Casali has been promoted to the Associate Vice President for Advancement. And through our budgeting process, we were able to reallocate 3 positions. And she was able to add those positions to her team so that we can increase our fundraising
Great.
efforts.
And I
That's
just
a
wanna
new
correct
positions there.
Trustee
That's
Hatcher.
good.
She didn't mean growing old and leaving. She meant maturing and taking on new challenges.
How about opportunities?
Great.
We're all good
Oh,
now?
oh, one more thing.
No? Back to you.
Thank you for the organizational charts.
The four-dimensional
Before
organization.
asking for them, yay, thank you.
That was your gift.
Oh, hey, I love it. I'm very happy about it.
I mean, literally, the only way you can understand this is in 4 or 5 dimensions.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work in 2
I
dimensions.
study it every night.
I'm sure
before
you
I go to bed.
Now, speaking of Bill Johnson and finance, financial reports as written in tab C are next on our agenda. And the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees receive the financial reports for June 2022 as follows. General fund, capital fund, and combined schedule of investments, all funds. VP Barnes is here to shed some light on this for us.
Whom we also hold in esteem.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I don't seem to have the financials in front. Yeah. So I thought I would go through the financial narrative with you real quick. I'll hit the highlights. Usually I go through the actual numbers, but I'll just hit the highlights of the financial narrative because I actually included some of the numbers within the narrative. Nothing will be a surprise. These are the same explanations that you heard from me throughout the year. So we finished the year basically as expected. In terms of our total revenue over expenditures and transfers, we did finish the year with $2.6 million more in revenue coming in than expenses and transfers going out. So we finished the year quite well, roughly in line with the forecast that we had looked at back in March. In terms of the revenue, we finished also $2.6 million ahead in revenue. We had expected a decrease in credit hours of almost 6%. That's what we had planned for in the budget. We in fact finished at less than 4%, which was, or better than 4%, which resulted in better than budget revenue. We also underestimated our contact hour fees, which again increased our revenue and fees for the period. So revenues and fees in total were $0.5 million ahead of budget. In terms of the state, we had the one-time supplemental increase, the performance increase, as well as the local community stabilization authority, which resulted in $1.1 million, which I've mentioned to you previously. Our property taxes were exactly in line with our budget at $61.2 million, exactly. And our trade partnership training program came in better than budget as we expected at $0.9 million, as we had not budgeted in a COVID year to have that much more. Many things were larger in scope or we hadn't planned it at all. In terms of expenditures and operating transfers, this also came in better than budget at $2.8 million better. About half of this, or $2.4 million, of the favorable part, was a result of vacancy savings. I know we've just talked a little bit about some of the vacancies here at the college. Financially, the average was 43 full-time vacancies versus our budget of 25 full-time vacancies. So again, we're actively trying to fill those vacancies, but in the near term, it did result in savings of $2.4 million. In other non-personnel costs, we also saved $2 million. We had expected more activity on campus during the year than there actually was. So that actually, when there's less activity on campus, we spend less. And finally, the board approved in fiscal year 22 the pull ahead of the technology infrastructure fund. So that was $1.5 million, which offset the aforementioned favorable. So in total, again, $2.8 million favorable. In terms of non-operating, in line with budget, other than the things that were approved by the board during the year. In other words, the $3.5 million incremental funding for the Morris Lawrence building was approved, $3.5 million for the Great Lakes building, and SRB and maintenance garage were also approved. Offsetting that, we also got $5.9 million in HERF funding This was quite a bit less than we got in the prior year, but still offset almost all of the $7 million approved by the board. Finally, there was $1.8 million of losses, unrealized losses on our investments. This is a accounting. This is an accounting convention. We aren't actually going to lose this money because we hold our bonds to maturity, so we won't actually see that loss. In terms of our deferred maintenance fund, we have $4.2 million committed as of the end of the fiscal year to projects that were either ongoing or planned, with about $200,000 also uncommitted at the time. And I will also show you briefly our long-term investment portfolio. I wanted to highlight a couple of things to you. If you look at the effective rate of return, which is about 7 lines down, the interest rates through the end of June, or the average of our long-term holdings, had fallen. Interest rates had been falling for a long time and affected those long-term investments. However, most of you have probably seen the Federal Reserve has been increasing interest rates rapidly, and while that can be detrimental to the economy, one of the silver linings of higher interest rates is higher returns. So we are starting to see much higher returns on our excess cash. If you look at just the 5-year Treasury there, in the span of a couple of years, it has gone from 0.29% to over 3%, which is a 10-fold increase in the returns that we're getting on our investments. In terms of our other, the parameters that we are supposed to follow per board mandate, our investment types, the mix of bonds from the federal bonds, state bonds, and munis and so forth, we're in line with the requirements of the board. In terms of credit ratings, we actually are out of line, but out of line to the good. Most of our bonds are AAA or AA. That's mostly because we haven't been able to find lower quality bonds. We would like to actually find some lower rated but investment quality bonds so we could earn even higher returns, but they simply aren't out there right now. And finally, the other parameter that we should be following is the 5% working capital requirement, which would have been $5.6 million of minimum cash that we have to maintain at all times. Our low point was about $15 million, so roughly triple what it should have been. So, any questions?
Well, bear with me a minute. We've got a recommendation in front of us. Do I hear a motion for support of the recommendation to accept the financial reports?
Second.
And support?
Yes.
Now, any discussion, questions of VP Barnes?
I just have an elementary question. When you mentioned that there are no lower bonds, so you can get a higher interest rate.
Right.
Has there ever been, and how come there aren't any out there?
Yeah, there usually are more. The lower the quality of the bond, the better interest rates you'll get. So we actually do look for those, but we do have a minimum requirement that it be investment grade, which would be that lower category there. It has to be something that we could actually invest in. It's not out there because we generally limit ourselves to Michigan bonds. So either municipals that are based in Michigan or state or based in Michigan, and they simply aren't many out there. Federal and state, in fact, are always going to be your AAA and AA bonds. So that's what we've got our money in for the most part. And then even the munis oftentimes are backed by the state, which increases their rating even so. So it is harder to find bonds that we can invest in that are lower rated, but we do look for them, and occasionally they come up.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, VP Barnes. Facilities Development Report, tab D in our packet tonight. VP Beshi is going to bring us up to date here. Welcome back.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry about this.
This must be quite a report tonight. I think we got it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and please provide the facility development report for the month of September. I'll begin with an update on the capital projects. Morris Lawrence renovation, as you can see, is 100% complete. There's a few outstanding punch list items and some owner training, but for all practical purposes, the project is complete. Great Lakes Regional Training Center expansion, as was reported in July, there are a couple events that have delayed the actual final certificate of occupancy. One is an electrical delivery part on what specifically are breakers for bus ducts that go into one of the labs, and the other is a requirement by the state fire marshal for fire doors. So we're still working through those two items to finalize the Great Lakes expansion. Shifting to the deferred maintenance. So up to this point, there's been a lot of work done with the capital project, but a substantial amount of work that our team does year in and year out is deferred maintenance. And I really want to showcase a couple projects we've been talking about and then explain the new project. So the list you have in tab C will include every listed project that's either in process or approved for fiscal year 23 for a total of about 20 projects. We've been talking a lot about flooring replacements. It was an ongoing project. I just wanted to show a couple classrooms in the LA building of the carpet. So on the deferred maintenance part, it's not as glamorous as the new construction project reports, but nonetheless, this is significant work that really has a big impact on our students, faculty, and staff. Second photo is we've been going through as part of our campus-wide lighting upgrade, which is tied to our 2% energy reduction, replacing all the light fixtures in classrooms from a fluorescent type light fixture to a LED. To date, I think we've replaced over 2,400 light fixtures throughout the campus, making significant progress on that. And then finally, we've been talking for a long time about the ML pond dredging project, and this is actually the site where just north of parking lot 7, the sediment was placed, and finally, after a couple of years, it's dried off to the point where it's hard enough to run a bulldozer over it and put some seating, and so this project is 100% complete. I want to really turn our focus to around project number 21. From 21 down are the projects starting with the campus-wide BMS, which is a building management system. These are projects that have been approved for fiscal year 23, and some are started and some have not yet been started. But campus-wide BMS upgrades is a project that will identify various components within our building management system, the system that controls our air conditioning primarily, sensors, pumps, motors, controllers. We'll be replacing those. Concrete replacement, we're actually starting that work this fall and going to systematically go around campus and repair and replace concrete sections that are in need of replacement. The Damon Flowers building is scheduled to have a brand new transformer. That's on this list. New for 23, fiscal year 23 is site lighting upgrades for lots 3 and 4. Campus-wide restroom renovations is approved project will probably begin in the LA building and piggyback on the flooring replacement that's being scheduled over the holiday season in the LA building. More flooring replacements. Project number 27 is a baseball diamond backstop. We had our current backstop blew over in March. This is an insurance claim, and we are getting an engineered solution to replace that backstop. And then finally, Damon Flowers' building is also due for a fire alarm system upgrade. Those are the highlights of deferred maintenance. I'm open for questions.
Well, what's the difference between number 25 and number 7?
Between, I'm sorry, campus-wide restrooms and
public area restrooms.
Well, the restrooms and flooring and lighting are kind of continual projects. So we have in-process projects from fiscal year '22 and more money that's been approved in the deferred maintenance for restroom renovations. So over the course of this, we're going to replace and upgrade all of the public restrooms in all the buildings. So it's just an additional funding for additional restrooms. And so same scope, same general principle.
Can you describe the lighting that's on line 24, site lighting replacement? Is that dark sky compliant lighting?
Correct, it is. It's the same fixtures that we put in lot 7, the lot that we did. So it's dark sky compliant, staying with that concept and that type of fixture.
Diana, do you have a question?
Yeah, you said all the restrooms is with, the restroom in the loading dock area for women, is that gonna be, renovated too?
In which building?
It's in
SC.
the SC, Student Center building?
Oh, the student center.
Where the loading dock is?
Yes.
Is that gonna be?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, we plan to upgrade and renovate every restroom on campus.
Okay.
Over,
You said that, there was one there. Yeah, there is, and it's been bad for a long time.
has it?
Yeah.
Trustee
I
Hatcher?
just know a lot of faculty who will be very happy to get rid of the fluorescent lighting. It makes a lot of people sick, gives headaches, it's terrible.
It is. There's a lot of benefits to replacing that and going with the LED, so good comment.
I've often taught with my sunglasses on because I couldn't handle it.
Good. Yep.
Any other questions, trustees?
Well,
Trustee DeVarty?
So I'm looking at the third page, campus repair and maintenance projects update, beginning balance 1,062,000. And you've got current year completed projects of 47,000. And then when I look at the various projects down here, you've got completed campus-wide elevator upgrades for 441,000. And I'm just wondering where those numbers are at odds with each other, even though they both say completed.
So the campus-wide elevator upgrade is buried in or part of the project completed number. We have a beginning balance and current funding, uncommitted balance of 411,000. But if you add up the 4 or 5 line items that make up our campus repairs, and then specifically that 441,000 for the campus elevator, that is complete, that project, and those funds were in the completed part of 903.
That's in the projects in process.
Yes, the part of the 903,000.
So, okay, but still the total of all projects in process of these 5 is 828,000 or 830,000, let's say. But projects in processes says it's 903,000. I'm just, there's like this, there's no agreement in these numbers up here, the top, with what's down here.
A good observation, and I know I get, Terry, I get the numbers from the finance. There's on the deferred maintenance, and I believe in the capital, there's I don't care if you're able to provide any better
Well, you know what?
explanation.
How about if we give you that answer?
Okay.
Maybe.
Is it a carryover?
I mean,
like
I
that?
trust
That's a good
I trust
question.
you.
I
I mean,
know
it's
you
not a
do.
question of trust, but I'm just trying to see
No,
numbers
that
that.
makes
You made the point, and they
that-
can reconcile
Do
it
you
and
mind?
settle
No,
on it.
Thank you.
that's all good. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, do we have that? I want to make sure we have.
We can work on that later.
I
We'll
want
work
to
on
make
that.
sure.
I'll report on that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have your question.
That was the only
Exactly,
question.
okay.
I'm trying to get the.
Okay.
Good point.
Do we
Yeah, the
understand the question?
We do. I
Okay,
need to
so we can get
get
them the
back to
answer.
them next
Okay,
month
and
on it.
everyone else. Okay, thank you.
Any
Thank you.
further discussion from any of the trustees? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now it's a chance for the trustees to hold forth once again. Who has trustee comments that they'd like to share this evening? Anybody?
Well, I like to say I'm happy to be back. I missed everybody. When I sat down for dinner, I said, ooh, we have new faces. So it's awesome to see everyone again, and especially starting a new school year. I look forward to all the great things that that you all have laid before us, which I know we will accomplish yet again. And, yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you. President Malonka?
Oh, I believe,
I have one
I'm just-
question for a future time. We talked a lot at our retreat about scheduling classes on campus and remotely and mixed mode and trying to get students back on campus. So I'd like to know, like pre-COVID and now this semester, how are we doing with that? I mean, how many classes do we, a comparison of classes that were on campus, and I don't know if we had mixed mode before the other, but just
You
to see
did.
what was canceled, what went, how are we doing with bringing students back?
okay, would you like that in a report?
Well, yeah, or on a piece of paper
I
or
mean,
something, yeah.
I'm looking at Linda, because we do look at that all the time now.
I'm sure,
You
yeah.
know, so
I'm just,
sure.
just in general.
I don't,
nothing-
yeah, that's a
nothing-
good question. What's it like? Yeah. Do you
Thank
want, would you like to say something, Linda?
In general, just from last fall to this fall, we more than doubled the students on campus. 14% of our student body was in on-campus classes only last fall, and we're at 30% for this fall. An additional 27, 28% are taking a combination of in-person and on-campus.
What, before the pandemic or just last fall?
So last fall, but I can give you, I've been looking at like the last four
Trend,
fall
yeah,
semesters,
exactly.
and I can give you that data for the last four.
That'd be
fall
great, thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, President
Okay.
Malonka.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you. First of all, we had a wonderful, it's hard to believe that our in-service was so long ago, but the faculty development team and Vice President Victor Vega did a great job with our faculty development meeting that we had in the beginning of the year. Our focus is on transformation. That's our theme for the year, because it's exactly what we're all doing, is transforming ourselves. We've been, as you know, we participated in the auto show. We were the only community college that participated there. And, just to remind the board why we do those things, when a person says they went to Harvard, or they went to Yale, or Brown, people say, oh, wow, I want to read that resume. I want to meet that person. When we're at that auto show, and all those employers walk around, and they see Washtenaw, not only will they know that our programs are great, but when our students walk into a job, I want them to be able to say, oh, you went to Washtenaw? We want to talk to you. So it's exciting that we were there. That's one of the reasons we were there. And I'd like to thank all of the individuals that made it possible. And specifically, faculty members, Alan Coleman, Justin Morningstar, Edward Zurich, Al Leitz, Brandon Tucker, Lori Mouton, Fran Fort. We had a whole team there for the few days that we were there.
And you had President Biden
And
there.
President Biden was there. Yes, he was. Unfortunately, he didn't quite make it to our booth. However, Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist did make it to our booth, and also took a photo in our car, which our Mach-E, which was
He
great.
could fit in it?
Did he fit, Brandon?
He did, but it was stuck.
It was tough, so. And Clarence Jennings is back. So welcome back, Clarence. It's good to have you back as Vice President in Student Academic Affairs. As you know, Clarence was with us. He had a really long title. But he was the Dean of Diversity, Inclusion, Student Success, and Access. And then he went to Mott as Assistant Vice President, and and we are glad that he's back. So that's great. And I'd like to also introduce you to Dr. Tracy Schwab. Tracy, could you stand? Because Tracy is acting as the interim dean of Math, Science, and Engineering Technology Division, while Dr. Victor Vega is acting as our interim vice president. And Dr. Schwab is a is it chemistry? What chemistry faculty member? She did all her studies at University of Michigan, and we are really very happy that she agreed to work with us, and she brings a lot of great ideas to the forefront. So thank you, Tracy. And just a reminder, our economic club is coming back to campus right here, and this episode or a segment will be best practices and growth to support the growth and impact of DEI efforts. Please let Vanessa know if you'd like to attend.
Who's the speaker?
Orville Barbie, is that correct? Chief Human Resources Officer at Indiana University of Health. So it's very good. And lastly, our foundation board has been amazing. And a few of our members, their term limits were up, and it's always sad to say goodbye. But I'd like to recognize Catherine Farrell, Jim Pegg, Dr. Jim Pegg, Dr. Stephen Gay, and Lori Regal for their time on the board. So
Changing of the guard.
yes, changing of the guard.
So will they have another gala in January?
I don't know. The new president hasn't, the new chair hasn't let us know
They've
that.
got a good committee that's gonna
It's a
sort it
great
out.
committee.
All right. Okay.
And lastly, can I just say one more thing? You know, that report you just heard was, I know it's long, tedious, 15 different things that we did, and you so graciously sat through the whole thing. That was a lot of work. Not the report, but a lot of work done by a lot of people on this campus. You know, and those reporting weren't necessarily the individuals that did, you know, they all did something, but it's more a systematic representation of what people did throughout the college. And so I really would like to thank everyone, not only our presenters and our executives and our administrators, but most of that couldn't happen without the faculty and the staff. So, and our community members that engage with us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
New business is next on our agenda, and a review of the 2024-2028 WCC Capital Outlay Plan is tab E, and I'll ask VP Beshi to come back up and describe that to us. And set up the screen.
Yeah.
Does that look like the right screen for you?
No.
No, yeah. So
Yeah.
while we're looking for the screen, how about if I just talk to you for a while? Do you mind? Okay.
Come ahead.
Okay. So as you know, every October, we present this, or September, we present this to you. It's an update on all of the capital work at the college, as far as facilities, enrollments, programs, and everything. So we'd like to share it with you in September, so you have a chance to read it and to have time to, because next month we're going to ask for your approval. But along with that report, as you know, there's an opportunity for a capital request. And in 2019, we put in a request for a Center for Success. You may recall that, Trustee Hatcher?
Oh, yeah.
And I believe, Trustee Davis, you were on that trip. And were you on that trip also, Trustee McKnight Morton? So we put in a for 19 million at that time. And then by 2021 or 22, it was 23 million because of, the inflation. But the Center for Success is a really exciting opportunity, because what it's going to do is it's going to be an opportunity to engage our students, our employers, our community, all together in our Student Success Building with resources not only for instruction, for registration, for wellness opportunities where we can expand our wellness center, but also where employers can come, meet with us, have partnership discussions, and we are moving our entrepreneurship center there. So it's all about not only transfer, but economic development and how we can add to the prosperity of our region while at the same time serving our students. So that's where we're going with this building. And we need a new front door. You may recall we lost our front door. I think my first year here, we had to get rid of the stairs. So we lost our front door. And this will enable us to have a new front door. You may also recall that we talked to you about some HVAC issues that need to be addressed in this facility as well. And with the new front door, we also would need an additional HVAC unit. So although this grant is for $23 million, our match would be 11.5. And I've checked with our VP for finance, and we are able to make that match. So where are we? Well, we're probably number 6, top 5, or top 5. We weren't one of the 5, but we are number 6. So from what we understand, there's a sentiment to approve more than 5, which is why Vanessa and I are going down there tomorrow so that they can see us in the room while they're discussing this. There's a sentiment to approve more than 5, so we're hoping that they will take a look at number 6. And in addition, there has also been, the legislators have also agreed that they would like to add an additional $4 million to everyone that has put forth a proposal. Is that right? And then $6 million they'd like to allocate $6 million to anyone who has not put forth a proposal. So I know you're probably wondering, how could this all happen? Well, I guess it's just a good time to be in the state of Michigan, but that's where we're at right now. So we're very excited about it. And it took a lot of work. The proposal has taken a lot of work, and thank you for those of you that have helped us all along to get to this point. So let's see what happens. And with that,
So,
yes,
just
sir.
a quick question. Is this the state legislature appropriations committee you're going to?
Tomorrow, the State Appropriations Committee will be meeting at 4 o'clock. Yes.
And Felicia Brabeck's on that committee?
Is Felicia still on it? But I know that Representative Ronnie Peterson is on it.
Okay.
The Capital Outlay Committee tomorrow?
Capital.
Oh, tomorrow's Capital Outlay. Felicia's on the
Appropriations.
appropriations. So, that's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You did a wonderful job explaining
Did I?
the capital.
Thank you.
So as President Blanca said, each year in September, we update the capital outlay plan. The state requires that it has to be submitted by this year, the 28th of October. And as described, voluntary is a project request, and our project request this year is going to be the same as last year, which is the Center for Success. So what I would like to do is to elaborate a little bit on the capital plan and specifically talk about the facility assessment and what goes into rating our buildings and the work that's put into that. I'd like to begin with just a quick definition of some of the terms and values that play into the assessment. Current replacement value, or the CRV, is the cost in today's dollars to rebuild a building if we were to lose it. The 1 year deferred maintenance backlog is the amount of deferred maintenance for 1 year that's really required to get the building into a safe condition. And so then the facilities condition index is a ratio of the 1 year deferred maintenance backlog divided by the current replacement value. And it's typically a fraction. So less than 5%, that ratio of less than 5% gives you a report or a rating of good for the building. If the FCI is between 5% and 10, it's fair. And if it's greater than 10%, the ratio of the deferred maintenance to the CRV, then the building has a poor rating. You'll see in this list a campus-wide, this is a campus-wide summary of our facility assessments, and generally speaking, almost every building on campus is in good condition. A lot of it has to do with the commitment to the deferred maintenance program that we have in place, and the work that we do to keep up on the buildings. You'll note that the Damon Flowers building and the Student Center rate fair. In the FEB, or the Family Education building, and the maintenance building actually have a poor rating. What I'd like to do now is pick an example of a building that has a good rating and explain a little bit of the rationale that goes into it. So the Morris Lawrence building, you'll note in the top of the ledger that it was a major renovation, obviously, in 2022. We use, to calculate the current replacement value, a software system called VFA, which is a facilities capital planning software system. So we take information about the structure of the roof, HVAC, windows, we take the information areas and we put it into the software, and it actually calculates a current replacement value for the building. In the case with the Morris Lawrence building, it has a current replacement value of $29,735,223. As you would expect, having just completed a extensive $20 or $13 million renovation, it has a very small deferred maintenance backlog, currently at about $190,000. So if you take the $190,000 divided by the CRV, it has a facilities index of 0.6, which is actually very, very good. The FEB building, on the other hand, had a rating poor. It has a current CRV value of just shy of $2 million, $1,933,574, and a deferred maintenance backlog of $221,000, which equates to an FEC rating of 11.5 and a poor rating. The good news, and I meant to say that if you look down at the bottom of the chart, there's a CRV, the deferred maintenance, and then there's a category called excess. And there's a benchmark with a national building called APA, which stands for the Association of Physical Plant Administrators. And they benchmarked the buildings at 5%, or put a value of 5% to get a building up to a rating of good. In the case with the FEB building, even though it's got a poor rating and a deferred maintenance backlog of $125,000, it has an excess amount of $125,000, which means if we made an investment to the deferred backlog of $125,000, even the FEB building would rate good by APA standards. So,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
What are we using the family education building for these days?
We don't know yet. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, we.
So which may account for why we put no money into it and it
Yes.
has an FCI rating.
Right, because what we're waiting for, our original intention, as you know, was to work with WTMC.
right.
However, we really need to see this year where our student preferences are, what our enrollment's gonna be like on campus. And I believe it was you that asked the question, a good one, about now what? I mean, what do we do with the buildings? What do we do with our master plan?
So
So,
it's basically been sitting, gathering dust and
yeah, it has,
deteriorating.
it has.
Oh, Patrick was there until this building was open, right?
Yeah, Michelle and Patrick, they were there just as a holding spot, but,
Okay. They were sort of presiding over the decay.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So in
It-
summary, I just wanted to share with this board the overall condition assessment of our buildings, which by and large is very good. Any questions?
Questions from anybody?
Isn't it a little ironic that the maintenance building isn't very good?
It is, it's also very relative to the current replacement value. So even though it has an extremely high ratio, the actual value of the building isn't great, or consequently the cost to repair it. But it does have some significant things that need to be replaced or addressed, and we're looking at that and going back and revisiting what's required to renovate the maintenance garage for the safety and security of that building.
Well, you may recall that, I believe it was Bill Johnson that gave a presentation about the different options that we were looking at, and this option, we talked about what we would like to do with that building as well at that time.
So-
And then COVID came and everything was put on the back burner.
So here's my question. The 5-year capital outlay plan, which isn't in our packet.
Yes, it is, it's right. It's in
Yeah, we
that
got it.
green
It's
binder.
It's the-
I don't have,
This one, we didn't get enough paper, I think.
it's right there.
I do have
no,
one.
this is,
You don't have one of those?
No.
That's
I
the
didn't get
audit.
I didn't get a packet on this.
Oh, my apology. I thought you did.
So I didn't have,
I'm sorry.
okay.
My apology.
So I didn't get one of those
I'm
folders.
sorry.
Oh, the green one.
The- No, I didn't have one
I
of
must have taken yours.
those. Or maybe I took yours. Was this in there?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what he spoke.
Okay, so I'll take a look at that. I'm sitting here looking at these the condition report, and I'm
Sure.
thinking, well, that's gotta be
It's,
addressed in the capital outlay plan, right?
it's in
So
section
I'll
E.
be looking at
It's all
this
in there.
And looking at what we're doing to try to ameliorate the issues with the poor and fair
Okay.
structures.
You should have everything now. It's in section E of that report.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We
I
do
believe
have
there's-
one more question.
Oh,
We're trying to
Trustee
figure
Hatcher?
out what this circle is. Is this welding?
Yes.
Okay, sort of. That helps a little.
See, there's smoke.
There's smoke, okay, fine, thanks.
Now I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna look at this with an eye to hopefully approving it next month.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
There's nothing
Okay,
there to approve.
thank you.
Next item of new business, review of fiscal year 2022 audit. VP Barnes.
Good evening again. You'll be seeing a lot of me this evening.
It's okay.
So I'm going to give you a brief review of kind of the managerial view of fiscal year 22 for the college as a whole. Then I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Moon. Tracy Moon is the partner that we work with at AHP, our audit firm. So just as a reminder, what I reviewed earlier was the general fund. So what I'm reviewing with you now is not only the general fund, it includes the restricted fund, the pension and OPEB fund, the auxiliary fund, and the plant fund. So it's the college as a whole. And also any of the variances that you see are going to be compared to 2021, not versus the budget, it's versus the prior year. So in terms of the highlights of 2022, the net position of the college actually increased by $23.6 million. A very, very healthy increase in the net position. If you look at it excluding GASB statements 68 and 75, which are basically statements related to pension and other post-employment benefits, the net position increased by approximately $11.4 million. Operating revenue, which I'll show you in a subsequent slide, increased by $5.9 million. We had increases across all lines of our operating revenue. And this impact was also augmented, as I mentioned earlier, by the HERF funding received by the college. The other highlight I'd like to mention is the pension liability. You'll see here that our pension liability was over $170 million last year. This year it's $106 million. So it improved by $69 million this year. Why is that? So there's a cutoff. When they do the pension measurement at the state level, it cuts off in September of 2021. And if you follow the stock market and the bond market, through September of last year, the stock and bond markets were both way up. So therefore, the liability here was quite a bit down. Now, you probably can also foresee that next year it may not be so rosy, as both the stock and bond markets are down. There was also another factor. Our proportion of the overall pension also decreased, so that liability also went down for that reason as well as other changes in assumptions, but those were the two main drivers. In terms of operating revenues, so we did see a decrease in our credit hours versus the prior year, but because we did have a lot more students on campus than the prior year, which was a COVID year, admittedly, revenues were up. They were also up because we had increased our tuition for any non-in-district student. We also, because of the on-campus enrollment, had a significant impact on our contact hour fees, which we did not anticipate. In terms of grants and contract revenue, we have a couple of grants there, but the biggest one was the PASS grant, which is used to support our Alpha Scholars program. And our auxiliary services revenue was also up as members start to return to our health and fitness center. In fact, throughout the year, I mentioned to you that we would break even at least for the year, and we in fact ended the year with an $83,000 profit at our health and fitness center, which is a far cry from where we used to be, but I think it's a very important milestone of getting us back to the point where we can make our bond payment every year. And finally, the other revenue, as I mentioned earlier, it was mainly driven by our trade partnerships. In terms of our operating expenses, you'll see here that the expenses actually decreased by $10.4 million. Now this is, again, related to pensions largely. In fact, you'll see the largest decrease is in instruction, but that's because the pension liability impacts instruction the most, because many of the faculty, if not all, are in the MIPSRS program, which is the pension. So the decrease in the pension was actually $16.9 million. That was offset a bit by an increase in general fund cost, $4.2 million, which is, again, is attributable to increased activity on campus. But even aside from the pension increase, even if you didn't count that, our expenses are still lower than they were in 2020, even if you set that pension gain aside. Remaining costs of $2.1 million would come from the restricted and auxiliary funds. These are just costs related to the grants, for example. Auxiliary funds, as revenue goes up at the fitness center, costs also go up at the fitness center. Importantly, 2/3 of our expenditures are still dedicated to instruction, instructional support, and student services and student aid. In terms of non-operating revenue decreased by $4 million. Again, this was largely driven by the HERF funding. We received significantly more HERF funding last year than this year, which is a good sign that our health is improving. And this was partially offset by both state appropriations as well as local taxes. In terms of our operating results for the college as a whole, again, our net position increased by $23.6 million. The general fund surplus, as I talked about in my earlier presentation, was $2.6 million. We also had the change in pension and OPEB liabilities of $12.2 million. And this is lower than that $69 million that I mentioned earlier because the impact is in fact amortized over time. You don't receive that whole impact in 1 year. And you also had a change in the plant fund, which is the net of the money that we transferred to the plant fund, net of the depreciation.
Mr.
Got a
Chair.
question.
Trustee DeVarty?
I'm just curious, in the case of a nonprofit like we don't pay taxes or anything to the feds, how is depreciation relevant other than as an accounting thing, an accounting device? How does how is it relevant to our operations?
I think you still want to align it with your revenues, but also you want the expenses. The students are using a value every year of the building, right?
Right.
So there's revenue coming in accordingly. You want the expenses that are associated with that building to align. There's always an effort to align the revenues with the expenses in accounting. So even though we're not paying taxes, for the purposes of presenting a fair financial statement, otherwise you would be presenting cash out the door. But you want to present it in such a way where the expenditures are aligned with the revenue. So we're actually kind of using the building slowly.
In real terms, aren't our ongoing maintenance costs, maintenance expenses and deferred maintenance, investments expenses,
Yes.
The use of the buildings are reflected in our
That too.
our actual expenses, and I'm just wondering, depreciation to me is a paper accounting mechanism.
Well, it is an accounting convention, but the deferred maintenance also in many cases gets capitalized and depreciated as well. So that actually goes into the building. Depending on how much it is and what it's for, it can also be capitalized and depreciated as well.
Okay. At some point, I'd like to maybe have lunch and get a better understanding of how that applies
Sure.
to a nonprofit institution, educational institution like
Okay.
ours.
Okay. Very good. In terms of the balance sheet view, the net position again improved by $23.6 million, attributable to a $13.3 million in total assets, which was largely the Morris Lawrence building and other construction. A very large decrease in total liabilities, again, largely driven by the pension plan, offset, again, largely by the net deferrals, which is that smoothing or the amortization of that impact over time that I mentioned earlier. In terms of the cash flows, if you look at the first two lines, which is the negative 92 plus the 118, that reflects the basic operation of the college. So if that's basically how much money we took in, how much money we spent. We generated about $26 million in the year. What did we do with that $26 million? We financed $15.1 million of investments, including construction that we've talked about, in addition to deferred maintenance and so forth. We also paid $1.2 million of our debt. We invested $2.5 million to our investments, and we ended the year with over $7 million increase in our cash balance. So this isn't related to the audit per se. I showed this last year, and I like to show this because it gives you a picture of the overall financial health of the college. And this is actually a calculation that's required by the Higher Learning Commission. And it's a composite of 4 different indices. And those indices are the primary reserve, which tries to measure how much financial flexibility we have as an institution. It's the net income ratio, which kind of measures our operating performance. It's the return on net assets, which measures how much return we're getting for the amount of assets we've employed at the college. And also our viability, meaning how easily are we able to pay off the current debt that we have. So they create a composite index that takes into account those 4 indices, each of them weighted somewhat differently. And we come out right now at a 5.5, which is a very good rating. You can see well into the green on this index. I mentioned last year that we were unlikely to hold it at 6.5. That's largely because the HER funding came down, as well as the HER funding from last year caused some of our assets to go up. which is the denominator of some of these indices. But long story short, it's still a very healthy metric. We're well into the green, as you can see, which means we have money to continue to invest in our school and our programs. One final slide, just what are the next steps? We have to turn a lot of this information into federal, state, and other regulatory bodies, which we're going to be doing as next steps. So I would like to turn it over to Tracy Moon. Again, Tracy is our audit partner, and she'll be telling you a little bit more about the audit itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for having me here tonight. VP Barnes did a great job explaining the financial statement, so I was crossing things off my list because I don't have to go over them with you, so thank you very much for that. So yes, first of all, I'd like to publicly thank management. Terry, Ben, Lynn is also here. They do a wonderful job gathering the information for us. You have a great staff. I really appreciate their help. We could not do this without them. We're bothering them 4 to 6 weeks. They have a full-time job as well, so really do appreciate their time. If you see them, make sure you thank them for their efforts. So today I just want to really go over the board report, and the board report is our communication to you. This is our time to just tell you how the audit went. So we did issue an unmodified opinion. That is a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that we can give. If you look at the financial statements, the opinion does look a little bit different than it did last year. We had a new standard that we had to adopt, and it just changed the look and the layout of the opinion, but it's still a clean, unmodified opinion. As VP Barnes mentioned, the MD&A is, that's kind of what he went over, that's written by management. It's a good read. It's in English, and it explains things very well compared to when you get into some of the footnotes, it gets a little technical. So if you want to read something, read the MD&A. In the board report, there is a section that talks about significant risk. If you've had a chance to read that, I did want to just talk about that quickly. That it says significant risk, and there's, I think, material misstatement. Those words kind of make me nervous when I hear them, and I don't want you to be nervous about them. As I mentioned, we had a new standard. That standard basically required us to put this into some kind of formal communication for the board and for you guys to read. This is nothing new for our audit. We have been doing this for many, many years on all audits that we do. It's just been behind the scenes and you've never known about it. So we do look at risk when we're auditing, and we look for areas where we think there could be potential for material misstatement. It's just now that we're required to put that into writing and show that to you. So there were no cases, nothing I need to report to you tonight where we found material misstatement or anything that would cause us to believe that there are material misstatements in your financial statements. There's also in your board report some other significant type items. The pension and OPEB is mentioned in there. Just other risky areas that we tend to spend some of our time on. Nothing, again, that was noted that we need to go over with you tonight. There's also a paragraph in there about cybersecurity that, as you know, is a hot topic right now. Again, we just want to keep that forefront in front of everybody's minds so that you're thinking about that and reacting to what's going on in that realm. There's some future accounting standards that will be applicable for the college coming up. We are working with management. We will work with them and get them figured out and implemented in time when those standards become applicable. Most of that information in there is required communication from our standards that we have to communicate to you. Again, all of them were answered in the positive. There was no issues during the audit and nothing that we would need to be reported to you tonight. During the audit, we do look for areas where we think management could improve operations or enhance controls, and we would typically issue those items in a management letter. There was nothing noted this year that we found where we think that management can enhance their controls. So controls appear to be working. And if you think about some controls probably had to change because of the COVID and working from home and different things like that. So it's good that they kept controls in place and enhanced them as they went along and changed them if need be. The last thing I just wanted to mention is the uniform guidance report. That is a report over the federal expenditures. This year, we did test HERF, and during that audit, we have to risk rate the federal programs to determine which ones we're going to audit. HERF gave us enough coverage. There's a certain percentage of coverage we have to have for over the total. HERF gave us enough coverage that we didn't have to test any other program. If you remember, last year we also tested HERF. The year before that, student financial aid had been tested, and previous to that, probably student financial aid every year previous to that. HERF is now wrapping up and ending. There will not be enough expenditures in fiscal year 2023. We won't even audit it. I'm 99.9% sure we'll be back to student financial aid next year, and we'll be testing that. In fact, we will, because you can only go for a 2-year rotation on such a large program. So we will be back to testing student financial aid next year. I just wanted to mention that. That report is a clean report as well. There were no compliance issues. There were no significant problems or anything in there. So that has been completed. The audit's been completed. And basically, we have one small little reporting thing that we need to do for the single audit, the uniform guidance audit. That'll be wrapping up within the month, though. So basically, we are complete. And as VP Barnes mentioned, those next steps, just filing all the reports and getting that all taken care of. And management usually takes care of all that. So, are there any questions I can maybe answer? I did want to go back to your depreciation question. A lot of the standards coming out, and I don't know if this, I understand what you're asking, and it is frustrating, but a lot of the standards coming out right now are trying to make, if a user were to pick up a financial statement from a for-profit and a nonprofit, they want them to be very compatible. They want a reader to be able to say, I understand what's going on here, and if apples to apples, it's going on here on this one too. So a lot of times that's why, like for the pension, that's why you had to record the pension, because they wanted apples to apples between for-profit companies and nonprofit companies. So a lot of times those little things are happening through the standards. I don't know if that helps. It doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it makes sense.
Well, it does, and in some regard, and I've been to some of these federal trainings or discussions of going for financial aid and for student loan reimbursement, and the legislative bodies, federal legislative bodies, are looking at ways to treat for-profit colleges versus non-for-profit colleges, and I can understand in that context giving the legislators an additional tool to measure our performance against a for-profit. They have other ways of measuring, like completion rates and graduation and all those kinds of things, and the rates of students paying back, and those are all relevant. But it also, I could see that apples to apples being helpful for the legislators in that arena. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item of new business, contract for copy lease agreement and copy sender services. VP Barnes, your last official act here this evening?
I'm sure you're tired of seeing me.
Oh, no.
No. In terms of this lease request, in 2015, the board approved a 5-year lease of copiers. And that also included not only the copiers, 83 copiers, it also included some copy center operations, maintenance and support for our fleet of network printers on campus. And since then, we've been making extensions of that agreement that was signed in 2015. We've done 2 one-year extensions, and now we're actually going month to month with Applied Innovation. But these copiers are reaching the end of their life. Most of them are in average to poor condition, and copiers, generally speaking, after about 7 years, it becomes very difficult to find the parts, and it becomes more and more expensive to maintain them. So we're coming here tonight to renew that fleet, but we did do some work before we just asked to renew the 83 copiers. We went around the campus to see if there was opportunities to reduce that fleet. Because as we've been off campus for a while, some habits have changed. We're no longer making quite as many copies as we had in the past. There's still more online courses, which oftentimes don't require copying. So we actually managed, working with what I would call the administrative owners of those copiers, to reduce the fleet by about 15%. So we can go down from 83 copiers to about 70 copiers. We also, because of the reduced printing, we have 2 FTEs in our copy center, 2 full-time employees in our copy center, which is less than what we had back in 2015 when we signed this. And also, if we renew this, we're basing the purchase on the Mitten Agreement, which is a purchasing consortium that Washtenaw belongs to. And Applied Innovation won a contract at the state level, which we can piggyback off of that contract. And that's also saving us money here, not only on the copiers, but also we pay a fee for every time somebody makes a black and white copy or a color copy or a color print or a black and white print. We pay a fee, but that fee covers the paper, the toner, and the maintenance on the copier or printer. So that not only is the per impression cost down, but we also think the number of impressions going forward will be down. So with all of that said, if you look on the second page of the information that was given to you, it's kind of a summary of all the financials behind it. But in summary, in 2015, we signed an agreement that was expected to cost about $500,000 a year. That includes, again, all the copy center operations, all the leased copiers, all the per impression costs, and so forth. Now, with the revisions that we've made, we're expecting that cost to be closer to $365,000 a year. So we're expecting, versus what we were spending about 7 years ago, to be saving about $137,000 a year, which, as you can see, over 5 years will add up to be some pretty substantial savings, while also continuing to serve the needs of the faculty members and staff. We don't have any doubt that 70 copiers will be sufficient to serve the faculty and staff. In fact, in most cases, we actually met with the people, like I said, the administrative owners, and in many cases, they actually suggested the reductions because they weren't using them.
Who's the maker of all of this new equipment that's coming our way?
I think it's a combination of Canon and Ricoh, but it's all Canon, sorry. That's all Canon.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. I have personal experience working with a broken down copier, so I understand. And it's, and it is very frustrating for, for your work environment to not have the adequate equipment. Are we in dire straits in some areas of the campus with these equipments that are old and can't find parts for? If that is the case, are you looking to have us to move forward with this tonight, or are we to come back to it later in our future board meetings?
I mean, I wouldn't call it in dire strait. I mean,
Yeah.
if you approved it tonight, we would move forward right away. If you approve it next month, we would move forward after you approve it next month.
Trustee Duarte?
I was actually going to ask a similar question, but I was going to look at the money aspect, and it looks like right now we're on the old contract on a month-to-month basis. The new contract looks like it'll save us $11,000 a month, roughly. And I'd encourage the board to think about if we want to do this, which is a reduction, new equipment and a reduction in cost to the college, that we should do it immediately and start saving $11,000 this month, or as soon as you can sign the contract and get the new agreement in place.
Well, keep in mind that the copiers that we have right now, we're no longer leasing. We own those copiers.
Oh, okay.
So there's no lease payment going out the door today.
Okay.
So the lease payment will start upon approval. So when we get the new machines, that will restart. So, but it will be savings versus the first 5 years of that previous contract. But right now, the copiers are paid for, but we don't want to wait until we get to a point where we can't service the copiers and we can't get parts for the copiers.
What do we do with the old?
Trustee McKnight Morton.
I'm looking at, in my mind, because we're really just starting a 22 year versus the 19, 20, and 20 year past, that's when the copiers were really being utilized. Now we're in this year, which is almost 10 months, almost.
Mhm.
So there's been a dip in some of the usage of it.
Yes.
Do you think it's because the dip, because of vacancies from personnel, or that everybody's not on campus, or I'm just throwing this out because why is there a dip
Mhm.
now, and who's to say that it doesn't increase, say, next year?
Right. Yeah, this is an estimate. We did go back a few years and looked at what were the habits before, what were the habits during COVID, and even what are the habits right now as people have started to come back to campus. So we came up with estimates based on that dip, but also the comeback. But we do think that at a certain point, we are going to have more people on campus, which will result in more copies than we saw during COVID. But we don't think that we'll reach the peak that we reached pre-COVID. It'll be somewhere in between, which is what we've tried to reflect here in these financials.
So a slight uptick.
Slight uptick versus COVID, but down versus pre-COVID. Yes.
Right, okay, that makes sense. I'm still looking at there will be an increase. Who's to say what that increase will be, but there.
Versus COVID, absolutely.
Versus the COVID.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
But the price will still stay the same.
The price per impression will stay the same, the copiers will stay the same. But fewer impressions means fewer costs.
Right.
More impressions means more cost.
Okay. All right.
Trustee Hatcher?
What do we do with old copiers?
We have some choices, but the most likely thing is we'll use we have a department that handles all of our disposals, and they work with a company called Public Surplus. So our first option is to try to donate these copiers to local 501c3s. To the degree we can't place those copiers with local 501c3s or schools, we will sell them on Public Surplus and get some kind of return for that.
New Center might be a good resource for some of that 501c3 discussion.
New Center, yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Trustee DeVarty?
So a follow-up question, if we're not paying a lease right now, we're not paying this $12,000 a month lease.
That's correct.
Are we still paying the monthly copy center cost?
We pay it based on two full-time equivalents, which is the $11,000 a month is what we're paying right now, roughly. So in other words, that $16,000 that you saw a few years ago, that was based on 4 employees at the time.
Okay.
So we don't have that many employees anymore because we don't have that many copies as we had 7
So are
years
those
ago.
our employees?
No, they will be Applied Innovation employees.
Okay.
They're not our employees.
But we, even without paying the lease, we're still paying for that, but at
Correct.
a reduced cost than what the original contract was?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further questions? Thank you. CIO Kruger, Storage Area Network, it says here. Come
Yes.
tell us about that, please.
It does.
Very exciting.
Storage Area Network, can you hear me?
Yes.
Raise this up a little bit. So Storage Area Network is a fancy way of saying data storage. So you have a hard drive on your computer. Think of this as a gigantic hard drive for our data center. All of our files and our programs are stored on the Storage Area Network. So our Storage Area Network is getting old. It is beyond end of life. Surprise, isn't it?
And it's resident here.
Yes, we have.
We're not in the cloud.
Not in the cloud, correct. We have 2 data centers, and we have a storage area network in both because they're redundant. And it's we do rely on a combination of both cloud and on-premises resources, but we have storage area network is on-premise. And it is beyond end of life, and it is near end of service life. So what that means is after, and I think it's not till August of next year, but then we will no longer be able to get security patches, get good repair for it, et cetera. So we need to get it replaced. It's really what it amounts to. The good news is we can get a new storage area network that's over 7 times faster. As it says here, 99.9999% reliability, and also has a health system check and cybersecurity analytics. So those are all very important, and allows to make sure we have reliability. Because if that goes down, not only can people not get to their files, but servers, et cetera, that we rely on don't work. So it's very important that we have reliability there. So with that, the college obtained pricing based on Dell's Midwestern Higher Education Commission MHEC contract. The college recommends that the storage area network contract be awarded to Avalon Technologies, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $300,818. Avalon Technologies has a track record of providing excellent service and support, which is especially important for mission-critical technologies. This contract will be covered by ITS budgeted resources.
Is this time sensitive?
So, anytime you buy something electronic with a supply chain, just as a reference point, last February we came to you wanting to buy network gear that we thought would be here in 9 months, meaning November. It's now looking at most of it won't be here until February. So is it particularly time sensitive? No, unless cost goes up or unless there's a supply chain issue, which there is. So anytime someone asks me about buying something now or later with electronics, buy it now. I can't say it's time sensitive, but just because of what we're living in, it's unprecedented. I've never seen something like this. So I guess the answer would be yes, based on circumstances.
I move that we move this to an action item.
Support.
Yeah.
Does that require a roll call?
I'm not sure that does.
That doesn't,
No, it doesn't, but the
once
next
we
one
vote on
does.
it, it does.
Sorry?
I think if we,
That
if we,
doesn't, the moving to an action item doesn't, when we actually vote on it, it does.
if we have unanimous support, I think it's automatic.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So now we have it in front of us as an agenda item.
I move we accept this recommendation to approve a contract to purchase the storage area network from Avalon Technologies for an amount not to exceed $300,818.
Second.
And we have support. Any further discussion? Vanessa, would you please call the roll?
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis.
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
Yes.
There you go, Mr. Kruger.
Fantastic.
Pleased to be able to help out.
Thank
Go
you.
shopping.
Are we ready for the next one now?
Yes.
Next one on the list.
Lumen's middleware cloud contract amendment, please.
Okay, so let's try and explain that. So the Economic and College Development Department at WCC utilizes the Lumens cloud-based enrollment management system that is designed for continuing education. So what that means is non-degree education and corporate training, lifelong learning is all handled via Lumens. Lumens is a great product. The challenge is Lumens is not integrated into Banner. So what that means is students who, students do not have a net ID, which means if the students don't have a net ID, it's not easy, it's cumbersome for them to log into Blackboard and log into Lumens. It's not a secure process and it doesn't promote a good student experience, which is of course not good. So what we want to do is purchase Lumens Middleware Cloud, which what that does is integrates Lumens and Banner. It means data will flow back and forth such that students can get a net ID. And what that would mean would be students can use single sign-on, a secure process, to log into Blackboard and to Lumens. It also provides data Okay, it also provides accurate data that we can report on. It also allows that data to be exported to Target X, so we can use that data to market to non-degree students, other classes. And the other thing it provides is that financial transaction data is almost real time. So great product, and so what we did is we reached out to multiple sites that have this product, because people can tell you how great it is until you actually try to use it. So we contacted, I think, 3 schools plus an Aleutian Managed Services school, and we like to do that because they're going to give us really the straight scoop. And everyone said it does what it purports to do, which is integrate and allows that data to flow freely and provide a better overall experience. Now, the other thing that it fixes is the current system is a lot of customization, a lot of manual data entry, and manual data entry is time consuming and prone to errors. So all things considered, it's a solution that we recommend. So the purchasing department was able to work with Augusoft, which is our sole source provider, to obtain pricing. And I have more details here in this document, but in summary, the proposed contract amendment provides the college with Lumen's middleware cloud capabilities and the associated benefits. The quote, as described above, includes an initial cost of $32,667 for November 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023. And the reason that is because we got to true up, because we got to get from November 1st through the end of the year, right? So that's why the first year is $4,667 more. Then a year 2 cost of $28,000, and a one-time implementation fee of $20,000, assuming the contract is signed by October 31st, 2022. Annual increases are capped at 4% every year thereafter. The college may terminate the contract at its discretion with notice at least 30 days prior to the annual renewal date, beginning January 1st, 2025.
So we will next gather here October 18th. Is that a workable window for this, entering into this
So
contract?
I would say that's a workable window. That's a question for the finance and the purchasing team, but I do not see that as being any kind of a problem to get that contract signed. Yeah.
The 3 institutions that were references, do we know them?
I don't remember their names. I could get those names for you.
Were they Michigan or were they national?
No. It wasn't Michigan. I do know that the one EMS school was, I think, Texas Southmost or one like that. It was in Texas. Yes.
Does Michelle Mueller know?
Yeah, I may have it on this
Well,
other.
Don't dig, that's
Yeah,
all.
I don't remember who they are, but
No worries.
They were recommended by the vendor, which is why I was glad that we could use someone that wasn't recommended by the vendor. So I mean, you can usually tell if there's any straight scoop, and we're convinced.
Any other trustee comments? Trustee Hatcher?
I'd like for Linda Blakey to tell me that it's a good idea.
You've been asked to say it's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
She said it's a good idea.
That's all I need to know.
So, yeah, that's the one thing I didn't bring up, is that we did talk to the senior leaders on campus and got their input. This benefits VP Barnes and others. It's a good overall.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Campus-wide switchgear maintenance contract is our next new business item. Welcome back, VP Beshi.
Thank you. For review and discussion is a service contract to do a campus-wide switchgear maintenance. We have 11 switchgear systems throughout campus. They're located in most of our buildings. These switchgears are essentially large cabinets with breakers and fuses. So it acts as a circuit breaker between incoming power, the high voltage power, and various pieces of big equipment. NFPA recommends that these pieces of equipment in this type of situation have a preventative maintenance and testing done every 3 years. And so what we are looking to do is asking for a 3-year contract that would essentially test and preempt 1/3 of this equipment over those 3 years and get them onto a cycle so that they're into a PM program of every 3 years. Utility instrumentation services out of Dexter was the lowest responsive bidder in the amount of $85,969. So that's our recommendation, that we move forward with that service contract. Questions?
Any questions or comments? I think we're good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have an action item now to address, it's tab K in your packet, resolution regarding local strategic value best practices for 2022. And the recommendation is that the Washtenaw Community College Board of Trustees certifies that the college does meet the best practice standards required for the state appropriations under Michigan Public Act 144 of 2022. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and support. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Just a big thanks to Julie Morrison. Thank you very much. You keep us, you and Linda keep us out of jail. Appreciate it.
Amen to that.
Any other discussion? Vanessa, would you please call the roll?
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. Next, revision to the 2022 schedule of board meetings. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees revise their 2022 schedule of monthly board meetings and hold the meeting scheduled for October 25th on October 18, 2022 at 6 p.m. in this very room at the Morris Lawrence Building. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I've got a motion and I've got support. Is there any discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton.
Yes.
All right, we are officially rescheduled. Thank you. At this point, I would like to entertain a motion to recess the monthly meeting and move into closed session in room 120 to discuss some pending litigation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I've got support. Is there any discussion? Vanessa, would you please call the roll?
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton.
Yes.
The meeting is now recessed.
Where's 120?
I would ask for a motion to resume the public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public meeting is underway. Now I would solicit a motion to add the lawsuit settlement recommendation to the agenda as an action item.
So moved.
Support.
We have motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is added.
Can we read the motion?
Yes. A motion to vote on the recommendation, and the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approves the proposed tentative lawsuit settlement agreements reached between Dana Reeds, Michelle Bennon, and Persona Hover, and the college on the terms presented during the September 27, 2022 closed session board meeting, and authorizes President Belanca to sign the agreements on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
So moved.
And support? Vanessa,
We
would you
already
please
did
call the roll?
Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty,
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher,
Yes.
Trustee Fleming,
Yes.
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton.
Yes.
The recommendation is adopted. Thank you. I would now take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Some enthusiasm here.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Our meeting
I
is
couldn't
adjourned.
help it.
Thank
I
you.
just couldn't.